clearly Peter Dutton didn't learn anything from his predecessor. You'd think Dutton wouldn't go anywhere near sport. Footy might not be his game, but Dutton looks pretty handy at gymnastics if his backflip on working from home is anything to go by.
We've made a mistake in relation to the policy. We apologise for that and we've dealt with it.
With a flip like that, you could mistake the opposition leader for Simone Biles. Ugh. The exertion clearly took it out of him because he got Shadow Finance Minister Jane Hume to do a backflip on sacking the 41,000 public servants.
There will be no forced redundancies.
Just like his sporting prowess, Dutton may have inherited his gymnastics skills from ScoMo, who loved a flip-flop. So far for Dutton this election campaign, it's looked like death by 1,000 cuts.
Let that be a warning to the rest of us.
So maybe it's actually better to risk a backflip than to bleed to death.
We got it wrong and we've apologised for it. We support flexible workplace arrangements, and our plan, which was only ever targeted for the public service in Canberra, Labor's been able to create into a scare campaign, which is not what it was intended.
Opposition leader Peter Dutton has been hammered today on the campaign trail by journalists over his work from home backflip. Dylan, what would you say is the optics of this flip-flop?
We're a week in and it's never a good sign for a political leader to be backtracking on policy that you announced in a budget reply 11 days ago. This is a really difficult position. He's clearly heard something. They've seen something in their polling, and we've seen that more broadly in the public polling that's come out since the election was called. The Liberal Party's lost 2 points in Newspoll, and in other polls they're showing that contest is going Labor's way each and every day. Now, that's a bad sign for an opposition leader that's already starting in the mid-50s on seat count and needs to get to 76.
And so, as you say, it's never good to have to backtrack on a policy that's, basically it's even though they've been talking about tackling work from home, been tackling cuts to the public sector in sort of real terms about how long this thing has been around for. A lettuce lasts longer in the fridge, I think, than this work from home position. But I guess, is the only reason that you would do this, take this drastic action because things aren't going your way? And does this represent hitting the panic button for the Liberal Party?
I'm not sure if it's exactly hitting the panic button. It's not a great sign. And I think there's clearly been some discussions going on in Liberal HQ over in Sydney for the last couple of days in the lead up to this. You've got a time frame now where Peter Dutton will be going to the first leaders debate tomorrow night. He clearly didn't want this hanging around his neck because it was hurting him in the outer suburbs and with women. Two areas where the Liberal Party really needs to gain votes if it's any hope of getting back into government. This campaign's really interesting too because there's this dead zone in the middle of it between Easter and Anzac Day where a lot of voters are going to be tuning out even though polls are going to be open for early voting. So I think he needed to make sure this reset was out of the way as early as possible so he can refine his message over the course of the next week and a bit before we hit Good Friday and that Easter break.
Here in Wallen today, on a fantastic day.
No doubt it is a fantastic day for Anthony Albanese. Sure, billions of dollars have been wiped off the ASX and the world is looking at a recession, but the PM is up in the polls. Latika Burke, how have you assessed the early going in this campaign for Anthony Albanese?
I mean, it's really been a one-way campaign, and I, for one, have been very surprised, maybe even a little shocked at that, because heading into this campaign, the expectations were, okay, Peter Dutton, the opposition leader, had had a pretty bad summer, lots of unforced errors, which I know we'll talk about a little more in detail on those. But really, we've had the spectacle of a Prime Minister who's really and truly been a great disappointment to most voters, including Labor voters. And so it was very much expected that Anthony Albanese would go into this campaign on the back foot. And we know that last campaign, he didn't campaign well at all. In fact, campaigning was his big weakness. So the fear amongst Labor cabinet ministers that I'd talked to, Labor MPs, was that, oh my goodness, we could be one bad press conference away from total disaster in the election campaign. That actually hasn't really happened. What we have seen is a completely transformed Anthony Albanese, who is growing more confident by the day. He hasn't had any big mistakes. He had, I think, one difficult press conference on the weekend, and he managed to sustain that. And the guy making all the mistakes at the moment is actually Peter Dutton.